Today we're going to review 500 Zoom, and we have some of our Bluff the Spot coaches playing 500 Zoom, so we're gonna take a look at how well they've been playing and what they've been up to. So let's look at some of the biggest pots and see what we can learn. It's a tough game, but it's definitely a beatable game. We have to mark our Bluff the Spot coach a reg, of course. There we go. So we've got a 2.5x open raise by John. Very simple to remember. I've never seen John before. 11 BB 3-bet by Undero. Definitely a standard sizing here. You could go a bit smaller or larger, but definitely a fine sizing. And wow. So Momocat actually just min 4-bets, which I actually kind of like. I would have probably made it slightly bigger, but not by much. I really like this small cold 4-bet. And John now ships it in. And for around 124.5 big blinds, what is he shipping with, right? So most people would probably be shipping something like 10s or jacks plus an ace king. Undero calls, and so Undero's range is always strong, right? John may be shipping with a bad hand, but Undero's not going to call with a bad hand. And Momocat calls now too, so he must have a strong hand too. It's possible that he thinks he's behind, but he's got enough equity to call because he's getting fantastic pot odds. Wow. Okay, so John shipped here with the pocket sevens, which is, it's not absolutely absurd, but it's definitely too light. Undero called ace king suited, very standard, and obviously the BTS patented run good, having the pocket kings here. That's run good only designated for a Bluff the Spot students and coaches. So nice hand right there. Good play by Momocat and Undero. Momocat just got lucky and Undero got unlucky. John's play was too aggressive, but it's not like absolutely insane, right? It's not as if he's shoving pocket deuces here like ace deuce suited. Min raise, okay, that's something you don't see as often. Min raise from cutoff and Undero calls. 6-4 deuce is a much better board for Undero. He's more likely to have 5-3 suited and 6-4 suited and 4 deuce suited. So a bit surprising that Hanky Panky goes for such a big bet. Undero now check raises, which he can still do with a pretty wide range. And gets called. Turn 3 changes quite a bit. Especially Undero can have a 5 here, but Hanky Panky could have 1 as well. I wonder if Hanky Panky is a Dutch guy. Big bet by Undero, all right. Most people would like to bet a little bit smaller right here. Maybe he thinks this player is not so strong and he can just milk him. Call. Deuce again changes the board, so it's kind of funny, right? Okay, the board was kind of static. Or, I mean, a little bit draw heavy, and then on the turn it became super draw heavy. 5 got there, and now it's changed completely again with the flush and the full house getting there. So it's going to be difficult for Undero to rep a lot of full houses here. It's possible he just bet large with a hand like pocket 4s, but he might have bet a little bit smaller on the turn, right? Because he's a little bit afraid of a hand like pocket 5s or 5-4 or whatever 5. And so on the river, it's possible he bet a flush draw on turn, and now he's shipping. And he does have the flush. Wow. Okay. So yeah, he check raised bluff the flop with king 9 of hearts, which is definitely fine. On the turn, not as big of a fan of his bet size, but I'm fine with it. On the river, again, I mean, I imagine he's trying to exploit the cutoff here. So Undero's line technically is pretty poor, I would say, but exploitatively it could work. Hanky Panky's call down is very, very bad. I mean, what are you beating, right? You're beating some hands like 8-7, maybe a backdoor flush. Maybe Undero takes in like a 3 and turns it into a bluff. So it's possible you win, but I mean, you can call here with a 5, right? You can call with a flush. You can call with a full house. You can at least call with a heart in your hand, so you block a couple of hands like king 10 of hearts, for instance. If you have king 9, if Undero has king 9 of hearts, he probably has king 10 as well. So yeah, Hanky Panky's call down is way too loose. I'll give Undero a 6 out of 10. I'll give Hanky Panky a 3. Sorry. The previous hand, I would have given Momocat and Undero a perfect grade, and I would have given John like a 5. So yeah, a little bit too loose right here by Hanky Panky. Can't just get it in with pocket 10s in a spot like this. Another gun folds, or MP cutoff open raise is 3x. Definitely not a standard sizing, right? Going 3x with such a short stack. If you wanted to use a bigger sizing, I think it makes more sense when you're deeper, and especially when you're on the button rather than the cutoff. At least you're guaranteed to have position. And so Vit 93 bets here. He would have probably 3-bet a little bit larger, but given the fact that we are a little bit shorter, it's different. Now Matthew 4 bets, and it's funny, right? Because in the previous spot, our bluff the spot coach 4-bet to basically the minimum, whereas this is about a 3x 4-bet. Oh yeah, 3x 4-bet. So not a big fan of this by Matthew. He should be going with a far smaller sizing. It's possible that he's just trying to buy himself into the pot or something, but yeah, I would definitely be looking to fold. I really don't understand. I really don't understand Vit's call here. I don't think that's good at all. He leads on this board, and so this is very interesting, right? Very interesting spot. So Vit's probably saying, hey, I'm more likely to have Jack 10, 9s, 8, 7s, 6, 5, maybe 9, 8, maybe 8, 7. So I'm going to lead small here, try and pressure your hands like Ace King, which is actually not the worst play. And so the big blind player ends up calling here. He's also going to be doing a decent amount of shoving, I would imagine. Yeah, the board is bad, but there's so much money already in the pot that you probably have to go with it sometimes. And now Vit ends up checking, and he check calls, I assume. Yeah, so, all right. Not a big fan of Vit's play here, to be honest. I think he should chip pre-flop. As for Matthew, I think it's fine. He should probably go all in on the flop, though. So yeah, I like the 3-bet. I don't like the 4-bet sizing by Matthew, but I mean he got all the money in, right? And so Vit, I mean his play is okay, I guess. I guess it's not the worst. Okay, so we've got an open raise by Pete. Now he goes for 11-20, like a very hipster sizing, whereas beforehand he went for 3x. So he's improved very quickly. Nabzu should definitely have a flatting range on the button here, so he does flat. And Vit ends up squeezing. Again, I think he would have squeezed bigger if Pete had a full stack. And Nabzu now calls. Nabzu is from Finland. Yeah, Finland. Okay. Jack 9-3 is definitely a good board for Vit. Vit's going to have jacks every time, whereas Nabzu won't. Vit's probably going to have 9s, but Nabzu could have 9s as well. And then they'll both have some big draws, etc. Obviously, Vit has the advantage when it comes to stuff like sets, right? When it comes to overpairs. And so he goes for a big bet here, which is fine. I mean, he's probably thinking that in position has a strong range, and so he can't just blindly bet. So he's trying to make this his 3-street game. If villain were to call, pot's going to be around 300, and you can shove like 400 on the turn if the turn's good for you. But Nabzu's not having any of it, so he ships right away and has a flush draw, and they chop it. Interesting. So Nabzu called a7 suited pre. You could definitely end up 3-betting, especially if you believe the cutoff is a little bit weaker, but flatting is fine. I'm not a big fan of calling the squeeze, though. I mean, a7 suited is quite dominated. It's not connected, so I would probably just fold. And so versus the big bet, I definitely cannot blame him for shipping all in, knowing he probably has a live overcard and he has a flush draw. And if he gets it in against hands like King 10 or King Queen of Spades, he's going to get it in fantastically well. So post-flop, I don't mind, but his pre-flop play is a little bit loose. Vit ends up squeezing with Queen Jack suited. Can't really blame him. And then he goes for a big bet and calls. I mean, the big bet is questionable on the flop, but he definitely cannot be folding, right? I mean, as you can see, Nabzu could be shoving here with like some kind of mergey hand like ace-9 suited. He could be shoving a flush draw like he did, some other combo draw like King Queen of Spades himself, so no way you can fold right here. So yeah, definitely calling it off in Vit shoes, and yeah, I mean, it's almost a flip, right? So nice hand. 2.5x open raise by Nuts Random, standard. Doesn't mean it's the best sizing, right? In fact, it's not the sizing I use, but it's a good sizing. 10.5 BB 3-bet by Vit, absolutely fine. And we see a 10-8-4 flop, which is a board which is pretty good for Nuts Random. He's gonna have 4s and 10s and 8s and 10-8 suited and strong draws like Jack-9 suited and 7-6 suited. So Vit's got to watch out a little bit here. It's not a terrible board for Vit, but it's not a bad one. So turns a 9 and Vit ends up betting large here. Sorry to say, but Vit's been misplaying every hand. Thing is, Nuts Random can easily have 6-7. He can easily have Queen Jack. He can easily have 10-9, 9-8, pocket 9s, 8-7 of clubs, right, for a high equity draw. This is not a good turn. Generally, when a turn is really bad for you, you don't want to just go ahead and bomb it. So Nuts Random actually raises here. Maybe he's just trying to buy himself in with a draw, like Ace-Jack of clubs. Or he just has it. Vit now shoves. All right, so Vit's probably thinking, well, I block Queen Jack, maybe Jack 7 if Nuts Random has it. So it's likely he's just trying to put it in with a draw. And Nuts Random raise here. I'm sorry, but yeah, sorry. I'll give him both. I'll give Nuts Random a 7. I'll give Vit a 5. Sorry, I'm not going to say why I'm laughing, but that's funny. 7-3 offsuit, okay. This is one of the biggest spots ever won with 7-3 offsuit. I did see a 10K pot yesterday with 7-3 offsuit at 40K, so that was a check and it was a limp and a check, so a bit different. So Sable open raise is 7-3 offsuit. I mean, if I were playing this game, right, I would definitely take a note. I would definitely take a note, just like open raise, small blind, 7-3 off. If he raises King 7 off, you know, that's kind of loose, but whatever, right? It's an okay play. It's not a bad play or anything, but 7-3 off is quite aggressive. So if you see here, okay, open raise is 7-3 off and small blind, well, now we're going to be adjusting, right? So Hanky Panky can be quite aggressive here. I'm not going to be folding much. 6-6-5 is definitely a better board for Hanky Panky than for the small blind. I mean, the small blind normally shouldn't have that many 6x, but I mean, if he's opening 7-3 off, he's probably opening 6-3 off or, you know, like 9-6 off. Call by Hanky. Of course, you open 7-3, you can't do anything but turn straight. Wow, and so small blind goes for an insanely big raise. I really don't mind this check raise, right, versus a half pot stab, but not so large. You're making your opponent fold all of his hands like King 5 suited. And he ships it in, gets called. And Hanky actually has a6, so Hanky doesn't raise the flop, which is interesting. It's actually fine to just sometimes call with a 6 here. But you've got to be raising quite aggressively in a spot like this. So, and Sable somehow just got it. I don't think Hanky should be folding. I think there's a decent chance Sable is just completely spazzing it off here. So, interesting play for sure. Very loose one. What do you guys think? So, small open raise and a 3-bet. Going quite quickly. Maxime. I've seen that player before. Okay. And so, Napsu ends up 4-betting here. Small 4-bet in position, which I definitely like. Assuming you do it with a good hand, of course, or a good bluffing hand. Jack 5 deuce is a pretty safe board if you're Napsu. You definitely have to worry about pocket jacks here or just some slow play with aces. But other than that, you're not really concerned, right? Sure, you're a bit concerned about King Queen of clubs here, I guess. And so because the board is quite dry and there's not much to fear, betting at a high frequency for a small sizing makes a lot of sense. Maxime actually goes for a small check raise. Again, it's a pretty cool play. I like it. And now Napsu goes for a min 3-bet. Not as much of a fan of this one. I think he should just go all in if he had a hand like pocket queens here. Maxime does go for it, and Jack 9 versus Kings. Would Napsu really have ended up raising so small if he had a hand except for like Kings? If he had like, I don't know, Ace 9 of diamonds? Probably not, but who knows? So Napsu, I love his 4-bet. I love his quarter pot bet, but I do think he should ship over the check raise. Maxime's 3-bet call against a 4-bet with Jack 9 suited is pretty damn loose. But getting it done on the flop, you know, with a hand which is quite good but needs a lot of protection, I definitely cannot blame him. So, yeah, I'll give Napsu a 7 out of 10. I'm not a fan of this clickback thing. I am a fan of it, but not in this spot at least. And Maxime's pre-flop play is a little bit loose. On the flop, it's perfectly understandable. Probably would be folding to the 4-bet.